When you sign up for a developer account, the email address to which you sign up, by default, it becomes an administrator. And regarding creating another user and making it an administrator, that is something which we are going to discuss in this class. So need not to worry if you have missed on any of the steps. We are going to review those steps here. So this is how your Okta tenants look like when you're not authenticated. When you have signed up for an Okta tenant, you must have received an email for activation, and you will receive a URL from Okta, which looks like this: dev-some numbers.okta.com. This is a dedicated URL given to you. So those of you who are not aware about the tenant concept in cloud computing, so it's like there is one platform called Okta, and Okta is providing you a limited space, or let's say a limited resource, which is just dedicated for you or your organization. So it's like from a big storage, they create multiple storage units, and they keep your data onto those blocks. These are called as tenants. It's like you have a apartment, right? And you rent out different floors to different people, but just a single apartment. So those are the concepts of tenants in Okta, or in any cloud computing system like AWS, Azure, or any product which is online, like even Gmail, right? Gmail is they have a very big email storage server, and when you sign up for an account, they create a storage unit just for you, where you have your 50 gigabytes of email storage allocated to you. So those would be called as tenants. So going forward, if I say Okta tenant, do not confuse. It's the dedicated URL given to you from Okta. And since this is a developer instance of Okta, it will always start with dev hyphen and some numbers. This is the format how Okta provides you a dev tenant. So you can bookmark this URL directly. I have seen students going to developer.okta.com every time and then authenticating from there, because as they are not aware about this dedicated URL. So if you bookmark this, then you can just go to your Okta tenant directly and authenticate to your Okta. So this is how the Okta login page looks like. This is the default logo of Okta, and you put in your username and password, and you should be able to log in. Sorry, let me log into this tenant. If you see my login page is different, do not worry, we will see how we can customize that. So when you log in for the first time as an administrator, this is the admin console, which you will find. And if you see, they added -administrator to your URL. Earlier, it was just dev-this number.okta.com. Now it's -admin is added, which confirms this is an admin console, and only you as an administrator can access this console. Any other employees of your organization, they would not be able to get to this page. They have another console, which is called as end user console, which we can also go to by clicking on these 4 boxes, and we can click on my end user dashboard. So this will take us to a regular user homepage or dashboard or tiles, the way you want to call it. So this is a dashboard where you can see all of your apps at one place, which are allocated to you or assigned to you, and you can access them just by clicking on the app itself. So currently for me, I have assigned myself 3 different applications, and I can see that under the work section. We can customize this dashboard as well, which we will see going ahead, how you can add different categories and so on. So this is an end user console, which is called as Okta dashboard, and this is an admin console called as admin dashboard. So going forward, if I just refer to this as an admin dashboard and the other one as a dashboard, please do not confuse. When I say just dashboard, I mean end user dashboard. When I use admin dashboard, then I mean this console where you can perform admin related activities. And this is a default getting started page. When you log into a new tenant, it tells you what needs to be performed in Okta as a beginner, or if you want to like create a goal that you want to do these many actions, then you can just track, and as soon as you complete those actions, Okta will just mark it there. Practically, I have not seen companies using this, but you can definitely give it a try. You can customize a goal, you can add a goal, and so on. So you can say that you are an IT administrator and you want to use Okta to build a custom app or a partner app integration or anything else, and you can just build out a list of the actions you want to do. But like this has nothing to do with Okta as a management. This is just to like specify for this kind of activities, we use different tools in an organization called ServiceNow, Jira, or Confluence, or any other tool to track your activities or the progress. Going to the dashboard feature of Okta, this is a page which gives you an overview of your entire tenant. It tells you what are the different changes in your users, applications, and groups. Whether or not some changes were done by any other administrator who has access to this admin console, which you can see here in the org changes. If there are any errors in any application or for any user, you would be able to see those here in the task. Not just error, you will also see some other events. We will review these tasks later on. This security score, or under security monitoring, this percentage what you are seeing is the strength of security for your Okta tenant. We can see how is this calculated and how we can improve the security score. So currently this Okta tenant is standing at 71% security score. That means it's still 29% weak as per the Okta. So we will see how we can move it to 100% and whether it's possible to move to 100% or not. And we'll discuss about different other security features which you're able to see here, called threat insight and suspicious activity reporting. So this is a dashboard to give it like a bird's eye view of entire Okta tenant. Now for our today's session, we will start our discussion on users. So we'll see how we can create users in different ways and what the information we need to create a user and if we can update those information later on or not. So Okta has a feature called directory. Our directory is like a nothing but a database. Have you used Excel before? Everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you have used Excel before, you've seen, right? Excel has rows and columns, and you can create headers and you can put different values on those headers as a columns itself, as rows. One row is considered as one entry. So that record belongs to one information. So similarly, directory service is nothing but a database where we store the information about our users and groups. And Okta has one such directory services, which is called as universal directory or just directory here as you see it. And that's where we are going to create our users and groups, and we'll see the different information, or like as in Excel, there can be different headers under which we'll put information about the user. So we can like put first name, last name, their date of birth, their password, and another informations. We call these different information about the user as an attribute or property. Okay, so like your first name is your property or an attribute. Your last name is your property or an attribute. The project you're working on can be your attribute property. Let's say that your address can be your attribute property. So any information about a user is called as attribute or a property. In Okta, we call it as an attribute, but in other tools, it is called as properties. So let's say if you are talking to somebody who is not from Okta, but they're using some other IAM tool, and if they say, can you tell me about this property value? Do not confuse, it means the same thing, which we call it in Okta as attributes. Okay, so if I go to directory people, that's where you will be able to see all the users in our Okta tenant. Currently, if you have just signed up for the developer account, you will only see one user here, which is the account through which you created this Okta instance. For me, I am seeing a lot of users because I have created these users manually here in my Okta tenant. You might not be able to see the same here. So in order to create a user, we click on add person, and this is a form which needs to be filled in order to get a user created. And if you see these information which we need to fill for the user, first name, last name, username, primary email, group, and password, these are all required fields except for groups. So required field means you have to fill in. These are mandatory information about a user to be provided to Okta. Apart from this, user cannot be created. So if any of these information is missing, Okta will throw an error that it is missing and you need to specify the values before creating the user. So let's say I want to create a user called as Sam Johnson. This is my favorite user. I create this in every training session. If you want to give a specific name, you can let me know. So for username, usually in other systems, it can be your email address. It can be your phone number in a few other systems. It can be a short username instead of your email address or phone number. So different systems accept different forms of username. The way Okta accepts a username is in an email format. So we basically use the email address of a user as a username. One thing to note about the username is it has to be a unique value. There cannot be two users using the same username. So every user in your Okta tenant has to have a unique value. If you try to create two users using the same username, you'll see the first user gets created and the second user gets an error that an object already exists with the same username. So Okta will not even let you create a user with the same username if a user already exists with that. So it has to be unique and it has to be in a format of an email address. So let's say for this user, I will provide the username as sam.johnson at consulting.com. So this is the email address. If you want to give in your tenant, if you want to give gmail.com or any other email addresses which you own to see what happens when you create this user, you can freely use that. Group is optional, so I just leave it for now because we haven't discussed anything about a group. So first we'll discuss and then we'll start using it. Password is again important. So it is asking us what password do we want to set for this account. And by default, set by user is the option which is selected. So it means that I will not specify any password. Okta will ask the user itself. It will ask Sam to set a password for his own account. And how will it do so? By sending an email for an activation of his account. And there will be a link in that email, which when clicked, user will have an option to set a password for himself. If I want to set a password while creating this account, then I can say set by admin and I can specify a password like anything you want. So you can specify this password. In that case, Okta is not going to send any email to the user. letting them know about this password. Then you have to manually inform user about this password which is set. And again, to note, when you are setting up this password, you have this checkbox which goes away when I select this. So I have a different checkbox, but the other checkbox which I had, it just went away. So if I select this option, I have a checkbox which says user must change password on first login. So that means this password which I'm setting up is a one-time password, and as soon as user logs in with this password, they have to change and set a password of their own. If I uncheck this box, then this is no longer a temporary password and it becomes, and user may, if they want to change, they can, otherwise they can just keep using it. But if this is selected, then it's mandatory for them to change it. Okta will force them to change the password. It will not let them continue without changing it. Okay. So let's say I don't want user to change the password. I just want to set a password and create a user. Then I click on save and this user should be created. So there were no users with the same username, otherwise I should have received an error, and a user should be in here. So if you just scroll down this list, you should be able to see Sam Johnson here.